Hello, A.B.I. here, and welcome to SugarPunch Tabletop Legends. I often talk about character design, but as an artist myself, I also design characters from time to time. I don't have the productive capacity to ever produce a full story featuring them, but I do play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games where my characters have experienced full adventures. So here on Tabletop Legends, I'd like to share some of them with you. This is the tale of Cadenza Maestoso, a half-elf bladesinger. Cadenza was a simple mage apprentice from a small island village called Arietta Rondo. A long time ago, she was attacked by brigands at the outskirts of her home when she was saved in an act of martyrdom from a passing adventurer who wielded an elegant blade empowered by the magic of her singing. This bladesinger perished in the attempt, but with her dying words, she entrusted her beloved sword to Cadenza with the hopes that she will remember her song. Yes, I realize this is literally just Symphogear, shut up. She is joined in the party by Adamant Redscale, a red dragonborn paladin, Collapsed Caverns, a Tabaxi rogue, whom we call CC for short, and Berio Zelocient, a half-elf forge cleric. Her story begins in the kingdom of Meraxis, a human nation that enjoyed a phase of rapid growth and expansion, attracting immigrants from across the land to live within its walls. However, the kingdom's economy began to crumble beneath the weight of its rapidly growing population. The king and his council, all humans, decided to take drastic measures to stabilize the economy. They would round up all non-humans in Meraxis and send them off to build their own settlement. With the Exodus underway, the creatures, as the non-humans were called, set their caravan to the wilds in search of a new home. While on the roads, their caravan was waylaid by Furbolg ambushers who aimed to spill their blood. As the settlers scrambled to save their lives, the party quickly assembled and rose to the caravan's defense. While the party was able to drive back the marauding Furbolg, the fight would not go without casualty. A Furbolg shaman calls down a bolt of lightning, striking down Cadenza immediately. Though she ultimately survived, her brief brush with the chill of death would haunt her for years to come. Cadenza developed a fear of lightning, and I, as a player, refused to roll dexterity saves against any lightning damage area effect, as Cadenza would simply freeze up and fail to save automatically. The remaining creatures hailed the party as their saviors, and began calling them the Heroes of the Path, for safeguarding them until they reached their new settlement. We called our new home Spearhaven, for all that remained of our people were some frightened creatures in the wild with naught but scavenged spears to keep us safe. Time would pass rapidly in this campaign, where the end of each session marked the passing of a year, and each session highlighted a particular important episode of that year. Each of the party members was tasked with aiding in the development of the town through some means of constructive activity. The dragon Adamant served as an aide to the village elder to help legislate and enforce laws. The Tabaxi CC began amassing funds and manpower to establish trade and invest in a stable economy. The cleric Berio served as an assistant to the village blacksmith to develop an industry of metalcraft. And Cadenza had become smitten with the town minstrel, a half-elf named Willem Freehand, and she became his pupil to perform in his plays, nurturing Spearhaven's sense of arts and culture. Fast forward some years later, and Spearhaven has grown from a small, helpless hamlet into a thriving, self-sufficient community. The creatures even made peace with the Furbolg, whom we discovered were also run out of their home by Meraxis, and we've begun to open trade with them. However, the heroes had clashed several times with Yanti from the south, and the beginnings of a war between Spearhaven and the Yanti were beginning to take place. The Yanti had already attempted to siege Spearhaven's walls once, and the heroes were tasked with helping to mount a counterattack at a nearby shrine where the Yanti were gathering. Peeking into the shrine, they saw that the Yanti had just completed a ritual, transforming their priestess into a powerful Gorgon. Cadenza knew Spearhaven was not ready for a long-term war, so she chose instead to reach out to the Yanti and offer a treaty. The Yanti were not agreeable, so Cadenza instead reached for her lute. With a natural 20 on a performance check, the Yanti were enraptured by her music. The Gorgon proposed to visit Spearhaven under the guise of a beautiful elven woman, to act as the Yanti's ambassador and to learn of Spearhaven's culture. The Gorgon asked Cadenza to give her a name, for the Gorgon's true name cannot be spoken by human tongue. She gifted her the Sylvan name Cavatina, and so the encounter is drawn to a close, not through a clash of steel, but through the shared love of music. When she returned, there was much for the heroes of the path to do, and so Cadenza left Cavatina under the guard's watch in Spearhaven while she was out adventuring. While most of the townsfolk praised and adored the heroes of the path, there was one individual who felt otherwise. A half-orc named Starg began his career in Spearhaven as the leader of a second adventuring group, taking on tasks that the heroes of the path were too busy to undertake themselves. Starg's team found mild success when they hunted a red slod, and they called themselves the Slaughterers. Over time, the heroes' victories began to overshadow the Slaughterers, and the group would fall into dissent. Some of the Slaughterers died while in an adventure, others simply quit. With their numbers dwindling, Starg's envy and loathing of the heroes grew ever stronger, and he caught the attention of Cavatina. With a handful of candied words, she convinced Starg that his potential and opportunities were robbed from him by the heroes, to validate his growing paranoia. Starg was convinced that the heroes had staged everything right down to the first Yanti siege, and were using their influence to control the city. Resolved to undo the heroes' lie, he set out to strengthen himself. He betrayed the remaining Slaughterers and abandoned them to a den of basilisks where they were petrified and never seen again. And under Cavatina's advisement, he left Spearhaven to seek out the Yanti. Starg's revenge would not only see Spearhaven burn, but also their alliance with the Furbolg. A report from Spearhaven scouts alerted the heroes to an amassing Yanti army headed to Spearhaven, with a second force also headed for the Furbolg village. We had sent a large contingency to help defend the Furbolg while the heroes stayed behind in Spearhaven. The townsfolk pitched together what they could to fortify our defenses. Forward ramparts for our archers to gain a vantage point of the valley leading towards our gates, and a pile of broken wooden barrels, crates, and wagons to serve as a makeshift barricade. Cadenza used a fabricate spell to refashion the broken wood into a proper spiked wooden wall, impossible for the Yanti to climb over. The town jailer, an old gnome, was gifted with some illusion magic, so we tasked him to hide and maintain a major illusion spell that would create a moat of lava behind the wall. When the Yanti came, they threw themselves at the wall, attempting to tear at the wooden barricade, while the heroes and the guards rained down arrows and spells against them. Once breached, the Yanti came face to face with the illusory lava moat. Unwilling to test it, they opted to find a new breach at the corners of the wall that would allow them to go around the moat, forcing the Yanti into two narrow choke points. Dozens of Yanti fell to our solid defense and concentrated fire, but the Yanti had yet to bring their full power to bear. Alongside the Yanti's infantry was a massive Hydra, who had no care for our barrier nor for the illusory lava. Crashing through our first line of defense, we ordered our gnome illusionists to fall back while we engaged the Hydra. Adamant and Barrio held back the Hydra, while Cadenza and Cece finished the remaining infantry, but Adamant soon fell back to tend to his wounds. Cadenza charged forward to take his place, and the combined efforts of Cadenza, Cece, and Barrio proved enough to fell the Hydra once and for all. But the siege was not yet over. Before the dust settled, the vanguard of the Yanti showed himself. Starg, transformed through profane Yanti rituals to have the powers of a death slod, led the final charge. Adamant returns to the fray to engage Starg, but the jealous half-orc had been studying our combat tactics and prepared a means to counteract us. With a powerful illusion spell, he entraps Cece, keeping him engaged with Yanti foot soldiers and unable to flee. With Adamant on the approach, he unleashes a deadly cloud kill to debilitate the paladin with deadly poison that his armor can't stop. It fell upon Cadenza to face Starg alone. Confident that he could best the wizard in physical combat, Starg soon found himself outpaced by Cadenza's blade song. Cadenza's superior swordplay gave Cece the opportunity to strike the final blow to the corrupted adventurer, bringing a close to the second siege of Spearhaven. Cadenza mourned Starg's passing, for his hatred of Spearhaven came from a place of neglect. If only they had reached out a hand to Starg and fought side by side as equals, this would not have come to pass. Cadenza decided to commemorate this moment in time and write her very first tragedy, to memorialize Starg, not as a villain to be defeated, but as a victim of circumstance, wronged by fate. Though the battle at Spearhaven's gates saw no casualties, the Furbolg lost far more, driving the Yanti back from their home, as well as a detachment we sent to aid them. It was later that a letter of confession came, revealing that the second siege of Spearhaven was orchestrated by Cavatina right beneath our noses. In truth, it was not a ploy to destroy Spearhaven, but instead a ploy to wrest power from the Yanti chieftains and unite their separate tribes under her own leadership. To do this, she needed to goad the Yanti chieftains to attack Spearhaven, and she sweetened the deal by manipulating Starg to act as their vanguard. Once they rallied their armies together, Cavatina was depending on Spearhaven's impregnable defenses to simply wipe out the combined Yanti's army. With the chieftains either dead on the front lines or lacking most of their army, it was then easy for Cavatina to stage a coup, kill the dissenters, and place herself as sovereign of her people. Now with absolute authority, and with their forces decisively unable to sustain a war effort, Cavatina reveals her true goal of offering a peace treaty with Spearhaven. The Spearhaven Elder, as well as the other heroes, are reluctant to accept the words of a known deceiver. But Cadenza vouches for Cavatina's honesty. Peace, after all, is a more productive alternative than the complete destruction of a people. She recalled her words to Cavatina the night they met at the shrine. There is no such people who understands the beauty of song who does not also know the horrors of war. The following year, the party ventures into the mountains in response to a distress call. A tribe of Dragonborn called the Brightscale are fleeing from the Clutch, a stronghold city to the north ruled over by cruel dragon lords who keep their Dragonborn as slaves. They got lost in the hills and found themselves surrounded by giants. In the process of rescuing the refugees, the party faces a fearsome fire giant. With clever use of Cadenza's illusion magic, the heroes triumph through a hard-fought battle. The fire giant's treasure hoard rewards the party with numerous powerful magic items and potions, but Cadenza had the fortune of extracting a simple sapphire ring that seemed to pulse with powerful magic. The ring was later identified as a Ring of Jinni Summoning, allowing Cadenza to summon forth a powerful Jinni to aid her in battle. The fire giant did not deign to give the Jinni a name, so Cadenza named her Brio. Cadenza and Brio fought side by side as a formidable pair, but Cadenza also made sure to summon Brio once a day so the Jinni could enjoy Spearhaven life. She wanted to treat Brio as an equal and a friend, and vowed one day to undo the enchantment that binds Brio to the ring. It was nearly a decade since the exodus from Meraxis, and many had put the human kingdom long behind them, until messengers from Meraxis arrived at Spearhaven's gates, bearing a decree from the sovereign of the human kingdom, Lord Marcus Gloucester. As part of the long-term exodus plan, representatives from Spearhaven were to be summoned to the courts of Meraxis, to be tried and reassessed for Meraxian citizenship. The trial was a farce at best, and a scam at worst. The Meraxians claimed they had granted Spearhaven its freedom, and they were entitled to Spearhaven's fortune as tribute. It was revealed by one of Spearhaven's few sympathizers, Lady Emily Gloucester, that Meraxis was sinking in debt from attempting to fund a war on two fronts in a desperate attempt to expand and conquer. They planned to claim Spearhaven as a Meraxian colony and subject them to taxes to help fund their war. The Meraxian nobles proved a difficult crowd to please. They were not convinced by Adamant's stern denial, nor by Cadenza's emotional plea. Instead, it fell to Cece's cunning and business acumen to cut a deal with Meraxis. Spearhaven would retain its independence, but Meraxis would offer citizenship for free to any who wished to return. A fraction of Spearhaven's fortune would be paid in tribute to Meraxis as a down payment, if the kingdom would then leave Spearhaven alone. The court came to an agreement, and the heroes returned home with the good news. Though Meraxis failed to exploit Spearhaven's riches, no one expected Meraxis to collapse as suddenly as it did. Not even a year after the trial for Spearhaven's independence, Meraxis suddenly found itself amidst a swift and bloody coup. Lord Marcus was executed by the other noble houses, and a manhunt began for the remains of the royal family. Although the heroes shared no love for Meraxis, this did mean that Lady Emily, who was instrumental in turning the court to Spearhaven's favor 1 year ago, was in jeopardy. Preparing for such an occasion, Cadenza had spent the year establishing a permanent teleportation circle to Spearhaven for easy travel. The party arrives in Meraxis and makes a swift rescue of their companions: Lady Emily, Sir Vathrin, Adamant's mentor, and Willem, Cadenza's lover, who had returned to Meraxis to reclaim his former celebrity glory. The extraction went smoothly, with Cadenza's teleportation magic able to flee from the courts with Lady Emily only moments before her execution. But the return to Spearhaven would not be so simple. Interference from the Meraxian court wizard had tampered with Cadenza's teleport spell, and the party had instead warped themselves into a jail block where an ambush awaited them. Ultimately, the wizard's trap is unraveled by Cadenza's arcane prowess, and the party is free to escape. However, the city yet remained in chaos, and a problem still lingered. With the Gloucesters removed from the throne, only two noble houses remained to fight for sovereignty over Meraxis: House Salisbury, who supported the taxation of Spearhaven, and House Warwick, who supported Spearhaven's independence. If left to their own devices, the houses would destroy each other. Or worse, House Salisbury might prevail and rally their last remaining armies to storm Spearhaven. It would be possible for the party to return to the courthouse and slay House Salisbury to grant the throne to House Warwick. But to shed Meraxian blood for their own gain would be to directly control Meraxis' government through force of arms. It was eventually decided that Sir John, a Meraxian ambassador to Spearhaven, would himself lead a strike force to eliminate House Salisbury and secure Spearhaven's independence. Meraxian hands to spill Meraxian blood. With the coup all but over, the heroes depart from their former home as the flames die down. Peace would not yet come to Spearhaven, as a new threat cast its shadow from the north. The Dragon Lords of the Clutch were not pleased to find that the Brightscale tribe had fled from them to Spearhaven, so they took flight and departed south to reclaim their lost property. The dragons sent their young to ambush a Spearhaven caravan on the roads, no doubt led by one of the Brightscale. The heroes swiftly rode to their aid, but a problem soon passed them. While they had traveled to the roadside, an elder white dragon, the Dragon Lord called Leviathan, soared overhead, due to arrive in Spearhaven in a matter of hours. Cadenza was resourceful enough to have saved her teleportation circle spell during the battle, allowing the party to return to Spearhaven in a matter of minutes. With several hours until the dragon arrived, the party took the moment to recover, and with the aid of a blessing of rest they received from the town cleric, they made a full recovery with only an hour of rest. The remaining hours were spent evacuating the civilians and preparing their defenses against the incoming dragon. Soon after, Leviathan arrived, demanding the return of his subjects. The dragon's terrifying presence triggered a long-forgotten fear in Cadenza's mind, a terror she had not experienced since that fateful day the lightning struck. Finding the courage within the song in her heart, she refused Leviathan and took arms against the great white dragon for the fate of her beloved city. Undaunted, the heroes brought their full power to bear: Adamant's stalwart defenses, Cece's deft lethality, Barrio's unshakable faith, and Cadenza's superior magic brought the mighty dragon low. The tyrant Leviathan saw firsthand the strength of a free and united people, and the final blow was delivered all at once by Spearhaven's people. Challenged even by the mighty dragons, Spearhaven proved itself a free and independent state. The city would continue to thrive under the four pillars of its society: fair and just laws, expansive and profitable trade, masterful craftsmanship, and the songs that immortalize the city's history. Cadenza, the Bladesinger of Spearhaven, would continue to travel the lands, sharing the song of Spearhaven with all who would listen. That's the end of Cadenza's tale. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed the story and if you'd like to hear more. I would be thrilled to share my other adventures with you. Don't forget to give us a like, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more anime and game content from SugarPunch. Our channel is supported on Patreon, so be sure to check it out and pitch in for early access to our latest videos. I'm A.B.I, and I'll see you on the next adventure.